I'm Virginia Toledo.
And I'm Jessica Geller. We are Toledo Geller Interiors, and welcome to our new project reveal, East Hampton Hideaway.
We're talking to you today from our design studio, and we're excited to share with you all of the design ideas we incorporated into this latest project. We have worked with these clients before, and you might remember their project from Tailored to Perfection. And so when these clients called us to work with them on their newest project, we jumped at the chance. This was really different from the project we'd worked with them on before, which was their primary residence, and now they had finally made the decision to put their own roots down in East Hampton, where they'd been vacationing for years with their family. East Hampton is comprised of cottages, mansions, homes dating back to the 20s, and so our client decided on this really charming home. It wasn't overscaled, but the really nice part about this property is the property, that view. It's located on 3 Mile Harbor, so from their back deck you can see the vessels coming in and out all day. There's so much action, but it's peaceful at the same time, so you're in the thick of it while having this far off view, sort of like you're hidden away at their house.
Right, and one of the things I think that first sold them on it was that you step in right from the front door and you have this beautiful view into the
harbor. Yeah.
We needed a new front door, and we said while we're upgrading the new front door, we might as well put glass here. That's right. And then we have the double doors with glass outside, and you can literally step up onto the porch and see right out to the water.
This house had been previously renovated, and we kept saying it was sort of stitched together. And not that we were trying to be offensive by that term or anything like that, but there were just a lot of different design styles going on. And then we had to think about that while also thinking about our clients. Definitely a lot more urbane, edgy, more modern, but also super luxurious aesthetic, and how we could blend those. When we design homes like this for our clients that are secondary homes that they sometimes want to rent out, we have to really keep into the forefront budget. And I know a lot of us designers hate that word, but we have to work within those parameters. And so we had to be really strategic as to what we could modify that made the most financial sense, deliver the most punch and impact, while also thinking about what would make this a home that a potential renter would find different from all of the other homes that they were scrolling past.
So some of the elements that we decided we would change for sake of budget and where we would invest were some of the architectural features here. So some of those things were the walls. We added paneling. We have some walls that were shiplap, some that have more traditional paneling to tie into what's happening in the foyer that she actually loved and didn't want to take down. And instead of treating it with a really bright white, as you often see with paneling and shiplap, we decided to use a much warmer color. And what this does is make it feel a little bit more elegant, a little bit more refined. And also another element that was very important here is that this house is only 3 hours from our client's primary home. They're going to be using this year round. So we didn't want anything to feel overly beachy, overly summery. So this warm white helps make it feel appropriate year round. We've learned many times over the years, what do you do with a long living room? And so we have separate seating areas to support intimate conversation zones, but that really, it still feels like one large cohesive space.
That's right. And this particular room, when we arrived, it had a sectional, and then it had the conventional free-floating dining area. So table, chairs, it kind of just sat in the middle of the room. I think that's what most people would do, but designers obviously try to think of things in different ways. It's not about aesthetics all the time, it's really about the function. And if we really think about it, the reason we needed more seating in this entire space is because summer homes tend to accommodate a lot of people. So while this is a 3-bedroom with an office, and you would think, okay, so that's one person per room, or a couple in the primary. That's not the case here. So here we had double beds in one room, we had 2 king-size beds, we have a sleeper sofa in the den. So where do all of these people go when they wake up in the morning? They have to be accommodated in the family room, or the great room as we've been calling this space. And so that is why we really had to finesse the furniture plan to integrate as much seating as possible while still maintaining a dining area.
Okay, speaking of dining area, this light fixture, first of all, is amazing.
Yes.
It was something that we felt was really important to
Centerpiece for sure.
give it, to elevate the space, to give it something that was not what you see on every website, every other designer's feed. We wanted something a little bit more special.
Yeah, that's part of what we do as interior designers. There's a lot of the same, especially in that category. So we really do challenge ourselves to find vendors around the world that can create something unique, different, but it's all for a good cause in creating interiors that feel different, special, and keep us motivated to keep doing what we love.
So another place that we felt was really important to invest was a custom area rug that will ground the entire long living space. So there was no way to separate this. We tried our hardest.
Yes.
But every time it was cutting the room off in an awkward place, and it's actually reversible. So should something happen, they can always flip it over, but it is all wool, it's perfectly cleanable, so we're really confident in the longevity of this area rug. And another place we knew we had to invest, which we always have to invest, is the custom window treatments. They're really refined, special, that very soft kind of plaid, pulls in the entire color palette. It's got the chocolate brown, the black, the creamy color. It's just perfection.
Absolutely. I mean, it screams Hamptons when you think of it, but it also screams our client.
It does.
I know,
Exactly.
right? When we walked in, we really felt they were there. It was them at the beach, as opposed to their primary residence, and that aesthetic. And so, you can do coastal in a variety of ways. I think people just think you have to always be, super contrived with
And
the blues
literal,
and literal, exactly.
There's very little blue in this house.
Very, right. So it's all about, tonality here. And then because of our clients' sort of urbane preference and aesthetic, we wove in a lot of black details, which really, feels really sharp and gives everything a little bit of grit at the same time. When you are in the great room space of the house, you look into the kitchen. There was an opening that led to that kitchen from the great room, and it was done in the worst way possible. And you think, how can an opening be so terrible? And I'm not even sure our client had noticed this detail. The cabinetry came past the opening of the room.
They were almost using the cabinetry on the kitchen as if it was a wall in the living room.
But they still had a wall in the living room.
It was beyond awkward.
Very strange. And so we extended the wall and reframed it, and then that wove its way into all of the paneling that Jessica was just talking about that we designed for this space. And we had a lot of fun sort of embellishing different types of paneling there. But we also used that added wall space that we created to give our clients a built-in bar cabinet. So what's a summer home without a place to fix yourself and your friends a cocktail? Nothing, not worth visiting, obviously. Some of the other things that we worked on that were very cost effective, that still related to the architectural details, were things like changing out doors, changing out lock sets. Those are very easy things to do that could be quite affordable. When you're not going with custom sized doors and custom paneling, just something a lot cleaner. The doors that were there previously were raised panel and had really ornate molding. So we just cleaned all that up a bit. And then we painted those doors in a very dark gray, almost black color, and did the same with the spindles going up the stairs. The location of this room is right off of the foyer, so it's sort of like in its own nook. I think this will be a space where when someone's working from home, perhaps, that's where they might want to go for a little bit of privacy or to retreat at the end of the day. Again, because this is a house that's going to be used by family and friends and potentially luxury renters, we also had to accommodate sleeping arrangements in here. And so the sofa is a sleeper sofa. It's leather, hard wearing, and is done in this really punchy sort of camel color to contrast against all of the built-in cabinetry that we had done in a dark gray, almost black color.
The wall color, if it had been painted black, I think would feel very different. We actually used a black grass cloth, and it gives such a warmth to the space. It makes it feel cozy. It also balances out the millwork on the wall with the built-ins, because I think having a flat painted wall meet up to that, then something just feels off.
That's right. And it's just kind of sad, like you invest in the built-ins here, but then don't do something special on the wall. So yeah, you just need that balance.
And we have to stop on that art.
I was just gonna say, I was hoping that you were gonna say that. Yes.
This art throughout the house is really just meant to make you feel cheerful, right? It's none of the pieces are like huge investment pieces. So there's a little bit of a less seriousness, I think, and you can have a little bit more fun with the art.
That whole energy of coastal living, it really is just such a treat.
We're gonna talk about that mudroom.
That mudroom, which isn't a mudroom.
It's not a mudroom. It's like literally the landing of a staircase to a basement that's unfinished. But
in the hands of designers.
Right. We used this adorable paper, which is East Hampton inspired.
That's right.
And we were like, we just have to do this on that wall, and it'll become a spot, a landing spot for overflow, jackets, beach shoes, what have you.
That's right.
It's the cutest paper ever. Okay, that ceiling.
But it was such a challenge because it was one of those things where you don't even know what to do with it.
Right. So we have to tell them the before of the ceiling had the floating beams, for lack of a better word, but it felt so top heavy. Like you felt like something was coming down on you.
Right. The craziness of that is that they were painted white, the ceiling was painted white. So it's not as if it was painted a contrasting color where you're like, oh, this feels like too heavy in comparison. And I think that was one of our challenges. We just were like, it's wrong, but we don't know necessarily how we should fix it, and we are on a budget.
So we thought, okay, if we balance out what's happening below with what's happening on top, let's put some wood shiplap there, and that will take some of the load off of it.
And that's not necessarily an easy job to do. The ceiling was almost like a pyramid shape, so getting those cuts, all of those miter cuts, the planks were only available in a certain length. So I remember our, GC asking, how to seam these things. And if you went through all of that effort and it was worse than before, I mean, that would be, we'd have to just like pack it up at that point. But that was the solution. Now they sort of felt intentional and gave you something to look through, to look up to, where before it was just painted sheetrock. It is transformative to the room and really set the stage for, allowing us to now embellish with the decorations and furnishings. And speaking of furnishings, I'm seeing that beautiful bed, upholstered bed that we designed, and that fabric. I remember that was one that you pulled, and you were not going to let go of that one, and I'm glad you did it.
Love a stripe.
Love a stripe. But again, it doesn't scream nautical. It's really sophisticated.
It's the black. Like if this was blue, it would feel different. But the black gives it that little bit of edge.
That's right.
And sass, and it still feels beachy.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're looking at the daughter's bedroom technically, but it certainly isn't overly personalized.
That's right.
Anybody can stay in this room, and it doesn't have to be a girl, right?
That's right.
The color scheme is really neutral. We do have, this is probably, the two bedrooms have a taste of blue, which is what we've said you kind of come to expect in a summer home. But this one really just draws in the beautiful view from outside.
Right.
We're looking right over onto the harbor from here.
Right. The primary also looks out onto the harbor. So these two rooms have those beautiful views. And that was one of the things our client really stressed, and we totally understood about not blocking the view here. And so, but the challenge was that the only way to accommodate two beds in this room and two full-size beds was to push them up against the window wall. They
Yeah.
wouldn't fit any other way. We had doors, closets to contend with on the other walls, and so we had to design the beds in such a way that they were interesting
Yeah.
to look at, but also didn't detract from,
They had to be
from the
short
window,
enough.
the view.
Short enough that you could see right over and appreciate the view from the moment you walk into the room.
Right.
And another little trick that we did here was to not detract from with so much going on, is that we matched the bed fabric to the
Yes.
window treatment fabric.
Love a matchy-matchy situation.
Love it. But this is done in a modern way,
Yes,
right? Like
for
it's
sure.
often we see these in a overly traditional setting, and this time it's a modern fabric, just a simple stripe, horizontal on the window treatments and vertical
Yes.
on the bed. So there's still a little bit of
Yeah.
something going on. It's a little different.
A little play on pattern there.
Yeah.
As I look at these headboards and what we've described to you about how important it was for us for those headboards to be short and not impede upon the view. But on installation day, when those
got
beds
it.
arrived,
Oh my God.
they were quite the opposite of that. And somehow there was some miscommunication. These things happen, and
They were taller than any bed we've ever designed was, right? Like it was like
They were-
all the effort that we took to make them a custom short height went out the window. Quite literally, they were a custom tall height, not what the doctor ordered.
No,
But-
no. Yeah, like I said, these things happen.
Yeah.
They get fixed. And the other thing that I'm seeing here in this shot is the
The
beautiful
rug.
the rug. Ugh, that rug is so great. You know, we mentioned we did a custom rug in the great room downstairs, but where we don't have to overinvest in a rug and can go with a ready-made size, we're going to take the opportunity to do so. This was an example of that. It's a flat weave done in a very contemporary, simple pattern with beautiful blue grays coming through. We were happy with the outcome here.
So the other bedroom upstairs, we put a king size bed in because we wanted to be accommodating to another adult couple staying, and maybe their kids are sharing the beds in the other room or
Right.
sleeping on the sleeper sofa downstairs. So much more comfortable, obviously, to have a king size bed, and the room was large enough to accommodate it. So when it's their family their son is sleeping in this room. Otherwise, it can be another
Another sort of primary suite to some degree.
primary suite. Exactly.
The headboard here was also something that probably isn't expected in a beach home, a brown leather upholstered bed that really has a presence in the room. The room, as you mentioned, could certainly pull off the size of the king size bed, but it's not overly large, and the bed wall really is the focal wall here. There isn't any other sort of seating group or what have you, and because it can transition into primary suite, we really wanted it to feel sort of chunky and have a lot of presence. We also wallpapered this room, and so went with a textured paper and a sandy color, and it feels really enveloping and cozy, like some of the other spaces in the house, but really just brought everything full circle. This room doesn't look out onto the water either, so it's in the front of the house, similar to the den. So with those rooms and wanting to make them feel a little bit more special since they don't have the view, adding wallpaper in the room certainly helped.
I love how we played with the window pane and the seersucker in this room.
I know, with that bedding, that was really smart. And
The bedding and that lamp and the window
Mark
treatments.
Sykes lamp. Again, we're suckers for designer collections with big brands, and this was one with Anthropologie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun watching with
It
you.
was.
And we enjoyed sharing East Hampton Hideaway with you.
Please subscribe and follow us on all social media at Toledo Geller.
All right, so let's check it out.
Possibly. I'm like, wait, what month is it? October? It might be.
Rolling with the homies.
I'm kidding, but we had.
She's not kidding.
That's right.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Perfect.